Oh, it is one of the best days of the year, Derek Togerson. First day of the NCAA tournament. We are also 1 week away from what is probably the best day of the year in San Diego.
It
Padres.
should be a national holiday, Darnay. We should all get comp time, overtime pay, days off. Put it on the national holiday list.
I would love that. I would love that. Certainly here in San Diego. Can we at least make it a local initiative to make opening day a holiday in the city of San Diego? One of the best
Mayor
places
Toria, I know
to
you listen. Make it happen.
So very excited to be at this juncture. We got about 45 minutes with you, and then you and we've got to be in an opening day meeting. So it's really getting serious. We got stuff to discuss on the TV side as well. And then obviously lots to discuss. As far as the Padres go, 7 days from opening day when Jerkson Profar and company will be at Petco Park. Braves, Padres, 1 of 162. Very much looking forward to that. Thanks to OGs, the sponsor of the On Friar podcast. Appreciate all they do for us on Friar and the TV side as well. If you want somewhere to go to watch NCAA tournament games, NBA, baseball here starting up in a week, OGs is a great place to do that. Great menu, constantly updating their menu, specials all the time, and an awesome beer list, and just a good place to hang. Bunch of locations all around San Diego County. So hit up OGs and appreciate all they do for On Friar. Without further ado, the walk-up music. It is the On Fire podcast. He is Derek Togerson. I am Darnay Tripp. Pleased to be with you on this Thursday afternoon as the countdown getting awfully close to opening day 2025 Padres Braves next Thursday, March 27th. Tee it up for good and finally going to play some games that count. Very much excited about that, Derek Togerson. Glad that you're with us. I think everybody's been hit with some sort of something here in the last couple months.
Yeah, seriously.
And you were one of the fortunate ones over the weekend. So glad you are feeling up to it. And how you feeling, man? What's on your mind now as you think about what's ahead in 7 days?
Is you Darvish okay? Is
Yuli
Gurriel actually is solidified on this roster as has been made out to be? It sure seems like it. There are a couple little surprises going in here. Other than that, will they have a left-hander in the rotation regardless of Darvish's status? I kind of like it. But other than that, not a whole lot of major question marks. Not a whole lot of things need to be worked out. Things are progressing nicely. So I kind of like where we are right now. Just cruising right along. Got a little taste of how good the Dodgers are going to be in Japan without even having Freddie Freeman or Mookie Betts. It's just going to be, if they don't challenge the 120 wins mark this year, then something's gone horribly wrong for them. So we're easing into baseball season, and really, as of right now, no major issues. The other thing I'm wondering is, where's the big deal that AJ is going to have in the next week? What's it going to be? That's the only other thing kind of percolating in the back of my head. What's the roster going to look like after AJ does whatever AJ usually does leading right up to spring training or the season opener?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. And you're right. There's been numerous instances that we've seen where he gets a little frisky right around opening day. The Darvish thing, I am concerned about that. We've seen, whether it be the hip or whatever, just little things pop up with him. 38 years old. These things tend to happen. Whenever there's an elbow involved, there is cause for concern. And so that was certainly news that was concerning earlier this week, and anxious to hear after a day off Wednesday, just in the coming days, what types of updates we get on use status, having had to kind of ease him back a little bit because of inflammation in his elbow, which would probably make you assume that he's not going to be ready for the start of the season. That seems like a pretty safe bet at this point. So now you have two spots to fill there in the rotation, and then just kind of the obvious long-term concern again whenever it's an elbow and whenever it's a player of his age, and the importance of Yu Darvish to this team and to this clubhouse.
Yeah, it makes the Pavetta signing even more important now
Mm.
because they were going to go into the season again assuming they were going to keep Dylan Cease, Michael King with a big three. Now they still have something resembling a big three, which is really nice.
Yeah, and it also makes you think, well, so much for the Dylan Cease trade. Because there were more kind of murmurs about that and teams that were interested, and perhaps some conversations that were going on in the background. And so after it had gotten quiet about Dylan Cease after the Pavetta deal, now with other teams, the Garrett Cole injury, so on and so forth, with the Padres now potentially without Yu Darvish, it would seem irresponsible, right, to then consider a trade for Dylan Cease when, even if Darvish were healthy, the thinking would be, okay, you're going to need to get some sort of arm in return. I just don't think that they can afford to go that route now.
Yeah, they really can't. And let's pop up two things in the chat, by the way. Thanks. First of all, Shannon, talk about positive things, please. We got you. We're gonna be positive here heading into spring training and heading in the end of spring training in the regular season because we're feeling positive about this team. And then JD start. If we're
So
5 to 10 games below 500 deadline, let me stop you right there. If this team is 5 or 10 games below 500 at the deadline, blow the whole thing up. All right, that's because then it's something's gone horribly wrong. The whole season has gone to haywire. We're all going to hell in a handbasket. It's the hope. That's the doomsday scenario. So let's not even try to get there yet. Don't even think about that. Consider that stuff. But yeah, we're feeling like, okay, Michael King is going to be Michael King, which means he's going to give you a chance to win a ball game every single day, which means that Dylan Cease is going to be Dylan Cease, going to give you a chance to win a ball game every single day. And that Nick Pivetta is going to be as solid and consistent as he has been the last couple of years with the Red Sox. You have a chance to win that game every single day. And then whoever fills out the end of the rotation just gives you a chance. Maybe Stephen Kolek finds that 5-pitch mix and he becomes a really good weapon, kind of like what Michael King was last year. Maybe Kyle Hart comes out and replicates what he did in the KBO and is a really good fifth starter. And all of a sudden, this team has a legitimate chance to win literally every time they take the field because the lineup is going to be there. Lineup looks good. Lineup looks healthy. Bench looks deep. A lot of good options. So yeah, this team is in a really good place right now. In fact, I've seen many people saying putting them on lists of teams who are legitimate potential contenders to knock the Dodgers off their crown, or even have a shot at taking the Dodgers or giving them a problem when it comes to either division or in the playoffs. Yeah, the Padres are going to be a very good team. They're going to be in the playoff mix all the way until the end. I expect they will get in the playoffs. And as we've seen, if you get in the tournament, anything can happen. So yes, regardless of what Yu Darvish does, I still feel like this or cannot do. This is still a team that's set up for potential success. And you're right. At this point, they're so committed with what they have right now. They can't trade Dylan Cease. Now it is the 2020, as JD Third was saying, it's 2023 with Blake Snell. You're keeping him the whole. This is what you're going to do, and you're going to let him walk and figure it out. But this is your year with Dylan Cease. This is the year with this iteration of this starting rotation. Go out and make hay with it because it's pretty damn good.
Yeah. And you mentioned Michael King, another one of the big headlines this week. Michael King, your opening day starter, and well-deserved. I think obviously, the body work was part of that. I think what he means to the team, probably a factor as well, just being part of the Juan Soto trade. And hopefully, again, we've talked about this so much, of the guys that you're more likely to keep around long-term, probably feel better about King than Dylan Cease. So there's that factor as well. On top of the fact that he's really, really good. And we remember what he did against the Braves in October last year, like a historically effective start in that series opener there.
Against the Braves. Atlanta's not going to. The last time the Braves were on the field, they saw Michael King. The first, when they come back, they're going to see Michael King all over again.
Exactly. And so excited for him to have that opportunity. I think part of it was kind of the scheduling. Before there was the whole elbow thing, Darvish had a day bumped. I think it was because of rain. And so things just kind of lined up well for Michael King. And he's a guy that you'd feel comfortable in that spot either way. And excited for him to have that opportunity as well. You can tell like it means something for him, or means something to him. And the fact that he is still like a recently what's the word I'm looking for? Made the transition from the bullpen to the starting rotation. He hasn't had opportunities like this to start on an opening day. Wasn't going to happen for him probably last year. But now he proved that he can be that guy. I mean, his numbers, 2.42 ERA after April of last year, he was sensational. And so a well-deserved opportunity for him, and excited to see what he can do there next Thursday again against that lineup that he had a lot of success against, now with Jerks and Profar to start the season.
And Ronald Acuna Jr. Don't forget that guy's not bad either. You probably throw him in there too. He might be somebody to consider. And by the way, how about the whole pitching matchup there? Chris Sale, the reigning NL Cy Young winner, who the Padres missed last year because he had a little bit of an injury at the end. They didn't have to face him in that wild card series. It kind of luck shining on them.
Chris Sale, a guy who you were saying the Padres should go after for like a year or two before last season.
Yeah, I hate when I'm right. I love when I love when I'm right. I hate when I'm right and it didn't happen. That's what stinks. But and Chris Hill, by the way, he's a great guy. He's a truly tremendous human being, and so is Michael King. And that's the other thing is Michael King. Just look at the stuff and the stats and the production. He's got the right mindset. He's got the right mentality. He's got the right makeup to handle being a guy who can go out there and start on opening day and not have it be too much for him and not be overwhelmed by it. He's really just he's in the right frame of mind. He's built for these kinds of moments. We saw that last year in the postseason and in the starts he made leading up to the postseason. He was tremendous in August and September. So yeah, I've no worries at all about Michael King. Well deserved, and just a good dude who deserved this kind of opportunity and this kind of spotlight.
Yeah, I like what he said about just kind of the competitive aspect, because I'm sure, Cease would have loved, the opportunity and would have reveled in it as well. And King just talking about I plan on getting us the win, and turn to Dylan and say, okay, now go top that. Like having that kind of internal competition between those two guys, just constantly one up in one another, and then battling to see who's going to be an all-star, battling to see, okay, who's going to be the most reliable guy once October rolls around to start, game one of the postseason or of the series. And so cool to see that dynamic at work as well between two guys that will certainly, especially if Darvish isn't available, they're going to anchor this rotation. It seems like, let's see, 619 Cam chiming in. Any news on Darvish? Is it safe to say he is probably out for the season? If so, any chance we can get Alcantara?
Ooh, don't get me started on Sandy Alcantara. Darvish not out for the season yet. The fear is he might only miss the beginning of the season, because what's interesting is we've heard both elbow and quote general fatigue. So is it general elbow fatigue? And then fatigue is something that Hughes dealt with several times in his career, not just in the latter stages here, where he needs a little bit of time and has to get back into it, and he needs a little bit of extra time, a little break, a 10-day rest on the injured list, whatever it might be, and he comes right back. He's in really good shape, but again, as you get up there in years, as I know, things don't recover quite as fast as they used to, and it becomes more of a grind. Haven't heard anything about the potential for a Tommy John or an elbow reconstruction, anything along those lines. So we'll have to find out what's the bigger problem here. Is it the elbow problem? Or is it just the general fatigue? If it's general fatigue, he'll be right back. If it's an elbow issue, now we're playing the game that we've seen the Padres and really other teams around Major League Baseball play far too often, is rest, PRP injection, cortisone shot, get him back out there, see if that works. Eventually the Tommy John is coming. That's what you're hoping is not going to be the case.
It kind of felt like what Joe Musgrove was going through,
exactly.
For
we saw
a year
just
plus.
last year. Precisely. Spencer Strider last year, same thing. Garrett Cole went through something similar this offseason. It's just kind of what you see, and you hope is not going to be the case. Now, it's not every time, but it happens enough of the time that you have to figure it's a legitimate possibility.
Yeah. Some news from Sammy Levitt, friend of the show. The Padres have selected the contract of Gavin Sheets to their 40-man roster and placed Joe Musgrove on the 60-day IL. Per the Padres, Sheets does have two options remaining. AJ Cassavell adding more or less making it clear he's will be part of their opening day roster plan. And from what we've seen, no arguments here.
No, not at all. He's swinging a very nice bat, and that's a dude who I was out there spring training and I was kind of standing around the batting cage. He was in the same hitting group as Connor, Joe, and Jason Hayward. So of course I'm out there checking those guys out, shooting video, and I keep the camera rolling. And here comes Sheets. I'm like, dude, the ball's coming off his bat pretty good. I wonder if this is one of those kind of dark horse roster kind of guys that AJ tends to find. And then sure enough, man, he's raked. He has raked this offseason. So that's the Cactus League season. That's been very nice to see because he's a good dude, professional guy. And as we talked about, Darnay, it's kind of feeling like he's kind of their David Peralta this year, just a veteran dude who comes in. Nobody really has high hopes for him, signs a deal that doesn't put him on the team, and he comes in and just becomes a great addition to the ball club.
Yeah, 311 average, 1123 OPS thanks to those 6 home runs, 12 RBIs, a couple doubles as well so far this spring.
And taking good at bats, taking really good swings, not selling out too much. He looks like he's going to be a weapon this year.
He's only 28 years old.
Yeah. But he was a couple years ago. He was really good with the White Sox. Yeah. The last couple of years, and everybody in the White Sox fell apart. They just everybody stunk. So maybe he got sucked down into that muck and mire with him. And as we talked about last week, Darnay, he's a guy who has better numbers in higher leverage situations. Well, he's going to play a lot of high leverage situations with the Padres. Maybe that keeps him locked in a little bit better.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they use him because he's been a little bit steadier at the plate when he's not having to play out in the field, and so is he just kind of a DH bench type piece? And if so, swinging from the left side of the plate, that's a guy that could be really really useful for this club. And so cool to see there. I was going to get to the bench guys. Let's kind of button up, in terms of the rotation. Okay, if you have 2 spots. It seems like it's 2 spots for Kyle Hart, Steven Kolek, and Randy Vasquez. You care to take a jab at how that's going to shake out?
Boy, you got to figure the way the Kolek's thrown and the way they've talked about him, and just from the conversation I had with him in Peoria, I think he's probably the surprise who's going to be in that. He'll get one of those. And then between Vasquez and Hart, the problem is neither guy has thrown much in Cactus League games. It's been a lot of backfield stuff. Vasquez we saw last year. I honestly don't know which way they're leaning here. I think they might want to put Hart out there to see what he has. Again, being a left-hander, it's always nice to have a lefty in your starting rotation. And then Vasquez, we've seen him come up and down from last year and be effective in spot start situations. So you got a guy who has that skill and he's shown that skill. If you put him down in AAA and let him keep marinating and getting ready, then if Hart's not ready, you can bring him right up. We don't know if Hart can do the same thing, or if he can, if he can be that guy who's down there, then pop up if Vasquez does struggle. I did talk to Kyle, and he said that he would, if he didn't earn a spot in the starting rotation, he'd be open to coming out of the bullpen, something that he has done before as a professional. He just wants to be on this club. He wants to be in the major leagues. He wants to pitch meaningful innings. So, and Vasquez, as we've seen, also a guy who has, with success with the Yankees, come out of the bullpen before. So I think both those guys will probably be, they will be on the roster and they will pitch innings for this team at some point this year. Coming right out now, if it had gun to my head, I'd say maybe Hart has the edge.
Yeah, and Hart's, one of the handful of guys that's had kind of a clunky spring because of the flu or whatever it was that ran through the clubhouse. He got hit with that. We saw him back at some point in the last week and pitched all right, but he just hasn't had the normal build up, and he's probably not physically where he would like to be. And so you wonder, and you mentioned Vasquez. I mean, Vasquez thrown, like you said, like 4 innings this spring, a surprisingly low number. And how much do those factors play into the equation when kind of determining, okay, who is physically, not just in terms of where the stuff's at, but who is going to be able to get us 5-6 innings at this point? It's hard to kind of tell.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of that on the backfields. A lot of those. I mean, Vasquez the other day threw like 4 innings against some Royals guys on the backfield. That's where a lot of this work now does happen. So they're still getting the work in, or we're just not seeing it on the broadcasts.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's probably, all the big questions facing the Padres. I mean, obviously there's Darvish's health, but it's the rotation. It was the 5th spot. Now it's the 4th and 5th, and another opportunity for one of those guys. So, anxious to see kind of how that plays out in terms of the bench. Who do you think is like absolutely locked in at this point? Sheets might now be locked in.
Well, she's might be your starting DH. So
Sheets might be your starting
he
DH.
not even have a bench spot. But let's assume that he is going to be a bench guy. I think Tyler Wade is probably locked in just because he's not going to give you a whole lot offensively, but from a position flexibility and just a clubhouse fit perspective, everyone there loves him. They can rely on him. He's got a spot. I'd have to assume Connor Joe, because of his position flexibility. He can play corner outfield. He can play first base, and he's your emergency catcher. And also he is if you got Luis Arias at first and Jason Hayward in left, those are both left-handed hitters. He's your right-handed platoon for both those guys. So I have to imagine that Connor Joe has a spot on this team. Jose Iglesias, again, is kind of your right-handed complement to Tyler Wade. He's got a track record. Again, good dude, kind of like last year, Donovan Solano. A guy who just destroys left-handed pitching. Very easily could see him in there as a DH type of spot. So I think those are the guys who get the right of first refusal. Gurriel is the one that I don't have a good handle on right now. I mean, again, he's 40 years old. He's swung the bat really well in the Cactus League. He's getting a lot of starts as the DH. He has performed pretty well. I think I didn't fully understand when he did, because I was there in Peoria when he did sign. I didn't fully grasp how seriously they were looking at him as a legitimate guy to join the team at the time. I thought it was one of those like, well, let's kick the tires on him, see if he has anything in the tank. But apparently he is impressed enough that he's probably going to be that guy. Now, the problem with him is defensively very limited, especially, at that age. So if you're talking about a guy who is only going to be a bat, then you're going to rely on him a lot to be a bat, almost like a Nelson Cruz a couple of years ago. So those are probably the guys that I look at right now as that's probably the majority of your bench options. Am I missing anyone in your estimation?
It's a good list. I think in terms of, you mentioned, I mean, it's a good point with Gurriel. If he's only a bat, and if Sheets is, does he end up only being a bat? Then is there room for two of those types of guys?
First. Yeah, he can play first. He can play a little bit of corner outfield.
Yeah. I think there are, just from, kind of listening to the fan base, I think there are, and I'm probably in this camp as well, people wondering, should Tyler Wade be a sure thing? I don't necessarily know. I think
what should happen is Oscar Gonzalez should be on this team. That's the other guy. I mean, I don't think Eggy Rosario has hit enough to justify it. Oscar Gonzalez has 7 doubles, getting 380 the spring training.
Scorching the baseball.
Yeah, he's been killing the ball. So I mean, he's the guy maybe on the outside looking in. And I tell you what, if the way he is hit, if Connor Joe, and I'll tell you, it pains me to say it because he's a great kid and he's a local guy, but if he didn't have that position flexibility that they're looking for, I don't know if Oscar Gonzalez hasn't slugged a roster spot away from him on opening day. So SpongeBob has made it very, very difficult on the Padres to really say, okay, how do we keep this guy off of our opening day roster and justify it? I mean, he's a guy I right now would take him over Gurriel, to be completely honest, just because having talked to Yuli while I was out there, what he really, really turned me off when asked about the Darvish thing from a few years ago, because what he said was, well, you came over and talked to me, show he was a great leader, yada, yada. What he never said was, I apologized, or I'm sorry, or I've learned from it. He never said anything like that. So that kind of, and maybe I'm being a little oversensitive with this, but that kind of turned me off with what he was saying and kind of the way he was going about it. Gonzalez is just a universally well-liked, fun guy. So right now I would take him over Gurriel, but again, I'm not the guy who's making those decisions right now. But Gonzalez is the other one who I think he's outperformed Rosario. And if you've got Iglesias, basically Iglesias, Joe, and Sheets kind of make Rosario redundant. So maybe he doesn't, get his shot, even though they've been trying to give him every opportunity to do that. And maybe it's the guy that the Gonzalez is the one who comes in and takes the roster spot because he's looked really good at the plate.
Yeah, I agree. I think Oscar Gonzalez kind of going into the spring and as it's played out, the guy I'm kind of excited about and hopeful that he is rewarded for what he's done. I mean, he's got multi-hit games in 3 of his last 5. He's up to 380 with a 935 OPS. Doubles. I mean, he's given you everything. Like, hitting the laces off the ball. I mean, he is hitting the stitches off the baseball. He's been really, really good. And I think, Terso's numbers aren't bad, but he's maybe cooled off a little bit. And so if you're looking at like one outfield spot between those two guys, I think it probably makes sense, to go with Oscar at this juncture. And then, you're going to have a tough conversation with Terso. Like, okay, you're going to, your opportunity is going to come. You've maybe done enough to earn it at this point, but we're going to go with this other guy. But, get yourself ready because you're going to be here at some point this year. I think with him, I think with Iglesias, Connor Joe. Were we
also, by the way, I forgot. I just assumed the backup catcher. So Luis Camposano he's already on the bench, right?
Yeah. He's kind of one of those guys, unless it's Martin Maldonado.
I just don't see it. I mean, would it surprise me? No, nothing with this team really surprises me anymore. But that would be very different from everything that we've been led to believe.
Yeah. And Campy getting that homer the other day. Good for him. He needed it. Backup catcher, Iglesias, Gonzalez, Connor Joe. Like, I think, there's a few guys in there, and I do appreciate Tyler Wade. I do appreciate the skill set and the scrappiness. He's got that dog in him. Good clubhouse guy, well liked. But I think there's enough guys that give you certainly more offensively. There's guys there that can give you some positional versatility that it's hard for me, and I've seen some of this from the fan base as well, to really get excited about just kind of handing him a roster spot when there's other guys that I think have higher ceiling for a team that, glue guys are great, but I think they need more than just glue guys at this point.
Yeah. And although Connor Joe, I don't even realize he's got a 932 OPS this spring. He's got more walks than strikeouts. So, Connor's he's probably played his way fairly well onto this team. So if you're not going to keep a guy like Tyler Wade, does Mason McCoy make a case? I mean, extremely good defensive infielder. That doesn't probably gives you about as much with the bat as Tyler Wade does. But if Wade's familiar. He's well known. He's well liked. How big was he last year in late game situations with the glove? If you're talking about, if you want a guy who maybe doesn't give you as much offensively, but is going to be 100% reliable defensively late in games, and you have to protect the lead, there's nobody else you're going to find around that's as good at that in that situation as Tyler Wade is. So that's what I think they're looking at too, is he's almost your defensive closer if you need somebody to come in late and play really good defense, especially if you're going to have Luis Ariz at first base in that game. If you want to, then you get to the ninth inning and you got a 2-run lead and you can move Jake Cronenworth to first and put Tyler Wade to second base. You have a vastly superior defensive infield at that point.
Does Jose Iglesias not do enough for you there?
He's not as good as Tyler Wade, but again, Iglesias, I think, is probably already got a spot on the team along with Wade. Yeah. That's again another kind of left-right kind of thing where he can play all across the infield. He can play short. Tyler Wade can also go in the outfield, as he's shown a couple of times. He's plus again, Schulte loves him. Everybody loves Tyler Wade. It's one of those guys who he makes everybody around him happy, and he's just great to have around.
There's also the Brandon Lockridge equation, 351 with an 871 OPS. I mean, he's also had a very good spring. We've seen him with the big league club
some
before.
Bases. Yeah, we saw him good. He was good last year.
So
that's another guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting collection of guys and not really like a clear, a couple clear spots. Gavin Sheets, obviously the catcher spot. You figure Jose Iglesias. Beyond that, it gets pretty murky, in a good way. It's not like you don't have enough guys to fill out the bench. Like, I think there's a possibility that they have a pretty fun, versatile, scrappy type of bench that's got some good upside to it. Maybe similar to what we saw last year. I think there's a little bit more youth there because of like an Oscar, Gavin Sheets, because of Terso, potentially Eggy, Lockridge. And so I'm excited to see how this all shakes out. Because I like this collection, and I wouldn't necessarily want to be the guy that's having to make the hard decisions and then have the hard conversations that come after the hard decisions.
Yeah, the other guy I think fans are kind of curious about right now is Jason Hayward. He's not been swinging the bat well. He's 35 years old. He's entering big league season number 15, 16. He's a veteran guy. He's one of those guys who you let him go through his progression. You let him do his thing in spring training. He's going to be just fine. I mean, 2 years ago for the Dodgers, you get 200 in spring training and ended up having a really good year. So he's got a process. He goes about his process. He'll be great. 2016, they helped the Cubs win the World Series. He had a 164 average in the Cactus League. So Jason Hayward's going to be on this club. He's going to be Tirso Ornelas does not out hits Jason Hayward to the point they're going to keep him off the roster. Tirso will be a very nice depth piece. He'll probably make his major league debut at some point this year, the Tijuana kid, which will be great to see, by the way. But Jason Hayward is very firmly, as far as I'm concerned, and again, I've been wrong about this stuff before, but I think there's just no way that they're going to bring in a veteran guy like that, and because he has one bad Cactus League, unless he comes out to them and says, you know what, guys, I just got nothing left. I thought it was going to work. I'm tired. Let me be a roving instructor, and I'll see you guys later.
No, I agree. I think once you make that signing, I think it seemed clear to me, again, we could be wrong, that they did that with every intention of him being on the roster, kind of regardless of how things shake out. Again, aside from injury and that sort of thing, that you bring in a Jason Hayward because the track record is there, the playoff experience, clubhouse, leadership and all that. And so I completely agree with you there, and am not going to overreact based on what we see in the Cactus League with a guy who's been around the way plenty of times before, and so I'm not so concerned with him at this juncture.
He's not going to get Clemson McNeese stated.
No, I don't think so. Apparently, Clemson almost made a nice little comeback. A
2-point game.
Wow. Gee whiz. What are the big questions? Like, are there any other, I guess you could look at this in we've talked about the big questions of rotation, obviously the bench, not just in terms of like questions that need to be answered on the roster, like who's the opening day starter, this or that. Like, what are the questions you have for this team going into this season? For instance, is Xander Bogaerts going to go back to being Xander Bogaerts? Are we going to see MVP level Fernando Tatis Jr.? Like those types of, obviously there's like the trade stuff as well. You mentioned trades. Like, if you had to guess which direction AJ Preller would go in a opening day trade, I mean, it's probably not Dylan Cease at this point. I don't know if you want to sell low on Robert Suarez when he struggled throughout the spring, just as he did last year and ended up having a really good season. So I'm curious, like what questions do you have that this team will begin to answer here now in a week?
What I have left is bullpen roles. Who is going to be doing what when it comes to the bullpen? Because we got a lot of. It was fairly clearly defined, and then it wasn't, because you knew Brian Hoeing was going to be a long relief guy. He's got the shoulder thing. Sean Reynolds is going to come in and be a high leverage guy. He's got the foot thing. Who do you have? Who's going to be in the books? Logan Gillespie pitched his way back into it. Is Jeremiah Estrada etched in? He is your ninth. He's your eighth inning guy. He's your setup man to Robert Suarez, and that's just locked in stone. Is Jason Adam that guy? And you got Jeremiah Estrada as your seventh inning guy. How is Mike Schilt going to use and utilize his bullpen roles? Because he was very kind of fluid with guys last year. Adrian Morejon, another one, with how he used him until everybody kind of defined their roles as the season went on. He's got guys who are kind of more like your traditional 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning kinds of guys now. So how will he be using those guys? I'm curious to see how those assignments get doled out as the season continues to go here, because we have a pretty good idea. Jason Adams there, Robert Suarez there, Jeremiah Estrada's there, Adrian Morejon is there, Yuki Matsui is there. Who's going to get those last few bullpen spots on this club? That's kind of what I'm curious about now, because like I said, a couple guys that we thought were going to get them probably, as we know, with a couple injuries, not there. But what's that going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, Alec Jacob in 7
Love
innings,
Alex.
1.29 ERA, 8 strikeouts, 0.86 WHIP, and he's another guy that has made a
Only one
strong
walk,
case,
right?
made a really strong case for himself this
Has
year. And
Wandy Peralta pitched his way out off the team? I don't think so, but he's not been great.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's enough arms there that you could imagine that, and then there is the spillover, like you mentioned, with Kyle Hart or Randy Vasquez. We thought that would be the case before the injury with Matt Waldron, of like, okay, who ends up on the 26-man roster, but in kind of that long relief role is a bit more of a swingman. I find that pretty interesting as well.
Yeah.
Just as kind of again, like a spillover from the rotation, and who do they think is best served, potentially giving them a couple few innings out of the bullpen rather than going down to El Paso or wherever and getting you stretched out into a more traditional starter's role.
Has Harold Chirino pitched his way into the bullpen?
Has he, Derek? You tell me.
He's still in what, eight and 2/3 innings, so 9 strikeouts and a 0.00. He's got the Blutarski ERA.
That'll play
for you Animal House fans. It's seriously 27 years old. Like, he's non-roster invitee. Has he figured out a way to get himself on this club? I wouldn't put it past him. There's always that one guy who, even up until the very day before the season starts, you're like, oh my God, I did not think of him at all as being on this club. Maybe Harold Chirino was that guy this year.
Yeah. Who knows? It'd be quite the story. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I just, I'm excited for this season to get started. I'm just excited to see this collection of guys again. I'm very much curious, when Thursday morning rolls around and they drop the opening day roster and AJ Preller sits in the dugout or wherever and kind of breaks down some of those decisions, just kind of hearing, what factored in and what tipped the scales for this guy or that guy, and just, how all the puzzle pieces come together, because there are difficult decisions to make, both in terms of the pitching staff and the bench as well. And I just, I just think so much of like the potential is there for a really good season. And
Yeah.
I'm glad to say that after an off season where I was definitely skeptical at points. I mean, you go back a month or so ago, and I remember you and I having some conversations where I'm like, I don't know, Derek, I'm struggling a little bit right now. And then the Pavetta deal, and that was probably before they added Hayward and Joe, and then you get in the spring and you see some of these young guys play well. And I'm optimistic now, but then I also think part of it is like you need Xander Bogaerts to be Xander Bogaerts. As Manny Machado says all the time, baseball is hard. Like, I have no doubt that Jackson Merrill's a dude and is going to be a dude for a long time, but there are peaks and valleys in the game. And so, like, that's something that you have to consider as well. Like, nobody would be surprised if he continued his upward trajectory, but it's also reasonable to imagine that, like, a guy his age, for whatever reason, there are some struggles, there are some rough patches, because it happens to everybody in this game. On the flip side, a healthy Luis Ariz. I know you've talked to him and been around him. Winning a batting title with one busted thumb. I think that there was always kind of mixed opinions around Luis Ariz, and I think that was certainly the case last year, not really understanding just how much he was held back by the thumb. And so now, what version of Luis Ariz do we get? And so just kind of balancing all that, the loss of a guy like Jurickson Profar and what he did, but do you gain a Xander Bogaerts? What do we see from Jackson Merrill? Like, is there any sort of sophomore slump, or is it more like Fernando Tatis Jr., where it's like year 2, he takes another step? Is Fernando Tatis Jr. an MVP? Does Manny Machado continue like the trajectory he was on, from like shaking off the elbow and the hip and all that stuff and being a dude? I'm just excited. I'm excited to see these guys out in the field and to see just what this team is capable of, and how close they can come to reaching their ceiling. Because if guys play the way they're capable of, this is a really scary team. But as we've seen, it's it hasn't happened often enough where everybody's kind of clicking at the level that you think that they are capable of.
How about this? I'm going to give you a comp right now for Jackson Merrill, and you're going to think I'm nuts. Bobby Witt Jr. All right.
Oh,
Bobby Witt,
okay.
rookie year, 22 years old. How about this? 20 home runs, 80 runs batted in, 254 batting average, 722 OPS. Pretty good. Merrill had him beat on all of those. Second year for Bobby Witt Jr. 4.3 WAR, led the league with 11 triples, 49 steals, 30 home runs, 276 average, 813 OPS. So he took a step on top of what he had. Was a really good rookie year. I think Jackson Merrill, Gunnar Henderson's another guy I like to compare him to, who was really good as a rookie, got even better his second year. I see Jackson Merrill on that same kind of trajectory as a Bobby Witt Jr. is, because they are just baseball rats, man.
Yeah.
They understand the game on such a molecular level that they don't go into prolonged slumps. They understand everything going on around them. And as they continue to build that Rolodex of information and get those experiences and apply how teams adjust to them and adjust right back, they just get better and better and better. I mean, Bobby Witt's my pick to win the American League MVP this year. He's that good. He's that talented. And I think Jackson Merrill is going to kind of follow in those footsteps, where every year he gets better until he hits, 25, 26. And then he's 330 with a, 900 OPS every year for a decade. That's kind of what I see for a guy like Jackson Merrill. Yes, he will be even better this year.
And I mean, you make a great point. What he's got going for him is what's between the ears. And he just seems to have the ideal outlook and approach in terms of successes and failures. I remember talking to his parents about when he was really struggling now 2 seasons ago. They were with him and he was just like, it was like the lowest that we've ever seen him. And his ability to work through that, like, I think they're really glad that he had that experience now, because you learn from those types of experiences and how to get out of it and how to deal with it and come out better on the other side. And, he could have easily gotten a big head when he made the All-Star game and the individual and team success, but it's always like, okay, the next thing that's in the past, what are we going to do now? And so even if he does run into some rough patch, he's been through it before. He knows how to get through it. And, if he's soaring, he's not the type of guy that you worry is going to take his foot off the gas at all. Like you said, he is a baseball rat. He's working tirelessly, and you figure that'll only serve him well. Although JDS Third is thinking you're putting too much pressure on the kid, but I think Jackson Merrill can handle it.
That might be fair. And again, I will say that's not what I am expecting or telling him
I don't think
to do.
I don't think you're doing that either.
That's what I think he's capable of, and that's what I think. That's what I think we're going to see from him. Believe me, Jackson Merrill does not listen to anything I have to say. Should be.
Before we go, because we have that opening day meeting here in a couple minutes. One member of our team won't be in that opening day meeting because she appears to be at home celebrating her birthday. One of our favorites in the newsroom, Claudine, is watching on Friar at home on her birthday, Derek. How about that? Claudine, what a diehard. Happy birthday, Claudine.
Happy birthday, Claudine.
You. Incredible.
Well, Claudine, thank you. One of our biggest support, Claudine Contreras, one of our biggest supporters for sports in the newsroom. Worked with her for darn near 20 years now. One of my favorite people at NBC 7, her and her husband. They're wonderful people, big Padres fans. It's awesome how much she throws support our way. Claudine, put the phone down. Go away. Go enjoy it. Go drink something, please.
It's not on the phone. They've got us dialed up on, you can't really see it, on their TV. We're on the big screen, Derek. I mean, that's diehard.
We're in HD now. I probably should have been paying attention this whole time now and actually put in a decent performance. I apologize.
I still think she likes John and Jim more than us, but I appreciate that Claudine made us part of her birthday and her day off. Happy birthday, Claudine. We love you. Enjoy the rest of your day. And to everybody else out there, you enjoy the rest of your day. Have your I can't talk right now, Derek. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm thinking about the NCAA tournament. I'm thinking about the meeting we have here at 3:00.
We got a lot of stuff flying around our heads right now. So
the Tritons are playing. How about the mighty Tritons are playing at 7:00? They're going to take down Michigan. I'm fired up about it.
They are. And do you know why they're going to take down Michigan?
You can
Actually,
go to
go read it on
NBC7.com to find out.
NBC7.com right now. I did a little breakdown on this. It's because Michigan is 334th in the country in turnover margin. There are 355 Division I basketball programs.
Wow.
You know what UC San Diego is in turnover margin?
They turn teams
1.
over. Hayden
Best
Gray, baby.
in the country.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a lot of turnovers for Michigan, a lot of quick run out baskets for UC San Diego. And the best way to avoid a discrepancy in heights, because Michigan does have those 2 7-footers, is to not let them get the ball and run up and down the floor, make them tired, and put their big butts on the bench. There
you go. Excited about that. Fired up about it. We might have another episode before opening day. I've been in touch with a friend of the show about joining us early next week. So hoping to get that done. Appreciate everybody. Thanks to everybody in the chat. LFGSD indeed. And we will see you next time.